Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome to another Everchanging unboxing. This is for one of the Allies boxes. Which are these little tiny boxes that just have one extra character. So if you bought any of the sets, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, you can pick up one extra character to play as. Either you can swap them out, or you could play, a 5 or 6 player game, depending on how many other characters you have. Definitely a fun extra thing to do. So we're gonna look at Erin, the Everchanging. So this is a druid, I believe. Yes. So we have Erin, the Everchanging, the elf druid. Yeah. So let's take a look at what her stuff is. All right. So we're gonna have an instruction pamphlet which explains how her cards work. She has a special set of cards called forms. Each one does a different thing. She can become a bear, a raven, or a tree. Then the back side goes into breaking down how those cards work with other stuff, which I'll just kind of explain as I show them off. We are going to get a set of gold coins and a fortitude and alcohol content marker to go with our board. So if you add this to another game, you can immediately play with it as another player versus somebody having to do it. Or if you bought one of the 2-player sets, that have a deck in there, like Spike and Flower from the Munchkin set. As long as you have something that has a thing, or even potentially you bought something like the Smorgasbord box, or which has one character but it has a drink deck. As long as you can have a drink deck, you can play with multiple characters. Alright, so Erin has these 3 form cards. She has her standard form. Erin is an elf. Has no effect. They're double-sided, so it doesn't matter which side you have up. That way they don't get mixed into decks and stuff. So this doesn't have any extra effect. This is just her normal form. But it also has no hindrances either. If she becomes a bear, via various cards will let you change into these forms. If she's a bear, it says whenever another player would lose fortitude from a card you play from your hand, increase that loss by 1. So bears do 1 extra damage. But at the start of a round of gambling, you must ante 2 gold instead of 1. Bears don't know how to hold on to their money. It says before you discard and draw on your turn, you may become an elf. So you can choose to change back. Like, hey, I know I'm going to gamble this round, so maybe I don't want to spend my extra gold. Or I know I'm not going to do anything with fortitude loss, and maybe I don't want to be a bear. You can turn into a raven. Whenever you would gain extra gold, add extra gold to your stash, gain 1 extra gold from the inn. Whenever you must ante gold in a round of gambling, which you started, ante from gold from the inn instead. So the raven's going to get you some extra gold. But it says whenever you would gain alcohol content, that gain is increased by 1. Before you discard and draw your turn, you may become an elf. So the raven will get you extra gold, or use it from the inn, but you also get drunk quicker. Then her third form is Erin is a tree. If you change into a tree on your turn immediately ends. Whenever you would lose fortitude or gain alcohol content, that loss or gain is decreased by 2. So it doesn't matter if it's a loss or a gain. For which one, loss of fortitude or a gain of alcohol, it's dropped by 2, so you don't suffer bad effects as quick. When you play a card, you must become an elf immediately. So if you're a tree, you have to become an elf to play another card. The bear or raven can still play cards from your hand. But it says before your discard and draw a turn, you must become an elf. So that's the other thing. The tree is, you're a tree for a turn, and then you turn back. So it's kind of like a quick defense. You throw up, you become a tree, you block stuff, and then you go back. Alright. So let's look at her cards. She has the basic cards everyone has. So gambling, I'm in. So start of a round of each gambling, or take control of your round of gambling. I'm not explaining the rules on how to play this. Check out Everchanging in one video. Since this is an expansion, I'm not going to re-explain it every video. We have 2 copies of I Raise. Take control of your round of gambling. Each player, including you, must ante again. 2 copies of Winning Hand. Take control of your round of gambling. The next card to take control must be a cheating card. We can tip the wench. which says pick a player, they pay 1 gold to the ing. We have 2 copies of Wench, bring some drinks for my friends. So it says you may play this card during your order a drink phase, pay 1 gold to the ing, order 2 additional drinks. The wench thinks you should stop playing with the drinks. Negate is sometimes a card that changes the effects of a drink. This includes negate, ignore, split drinks, pass drinks to other players, or alter any of the drink's effects. This card can only be affected by I don't think so. And then we have I don't think so. Sometimes card negates a sometimes card. This card can only be affected by another I don't think so. So these are the cards that pretty much every single player has. Some of them might have one more or less than the others, but they all have those. So then what we also have, which I forgot to show off, is we have Erin's current form. So when you're playing as her, you'll lay all 4 of these cards out in a row, and then depending on which form you're in, you'll move this over that specific card. So like you start off as an elf, you'll have that, and then when you become a bear, you'll slide it then over the bear card. So these 4 cards are always up and available for everyone to see what they do. Alright, so let's look at her regular deck. So we have, alas, your aura is in need of adjustment. This may hurt a little. Pick another player, they lose 2 fortitude, you are now an elf. If you are already an elf, you're still an elf. No big deal. If you're anything else, you can change right to an elf. 2 copies of Methinks if you don't have proper reverence for nature. Pick another player, they lose 2 fortitude. 2 copies of Druids cannot fight, you say. Allow me to prove otherwise. Pick another player to lose 2 fortitude. You are now a bear. So now if you were already a bear when you played this, great, you're still a bear. But you also, so his ability says whenever a player loses fortitude, they lose, the loss is increased by 1. So if you were already a bear and you played this, they lose 3 fortitude. If you weren't, you played this, you become a bear, they don't lose an additional 1 because you're now a bear. You have to play another card. 2 copies of I Know Your Misdeeds, a little birdie told me. Pick another player, they lose 1 fortitude. Attention friends, partake of my elderberry wine. Each other player gains 1 alcohol content and pays you 1 gold. So this would help with your raving, you get an extra gold. It's not wise to upset a druid. Druids are known to tear a person's arms out of their sockets, you know. Just play on Star Wars and a Wookiee. Take control of a round of gambling. Pick another player and force them to leave the round of gambling. You may play this card even if the last card to take control is a winning hand. You are now a bear. Yeah, so that definitely is helpful for the bear. But it also means if someone starts another round of gambling, you have to ante 2 gold instead of 1. But if before you played that, you were the Raven, so it says take control of a round of gambling. So you're not, excuse me. So whenever you must ante a round in which you started, ante gold from within the inn. Yes, you're not anteing there. So that doesn't really matter that much. But it could be a way to get out of there. We have a fool's gold is not long in their pockets. You may play this card when you must ante. Instead of anteing, you leave the round of gambling. 2 copies of Pardon, I must harvest my mystic herbs. You may play this card when you must ante. Instead of anteing, you may leave the round of gambling or ignore a drink. Thunk. Ignoring action sometimes, anytime cards that affect your fortitude. You are now a tree. Nature's voices, I call you nigh. Purge the poison and purify. Reduce the alcohol content of a drink by 2. Reducing its content below 0 reduces to 0 instead. Pray, wench. Might have you a stronger tankard? Ignore a drink. Pay 1 gold to the inn. You are now a bear. Have this trinket instead. You may play a card when you are about to lose gold. You don't have to pay. You are now a raven. 2 copies of Healing Spirits, Prithee send, make me whole and true again. Gain 1 fortitude. Keen Eyes often lead to shiny rewards. Pick a player, they pay you 1 gold. You are now a Raven. This does not cause you to gain an extra gold unless you are already a Raven before this resolved. Nature, grant me Oak Skin. Shield thy heart, mighty heart within. You may play this card with an action card. Sometimes or anytime card would make you lose fortitude. Reduce the fortitude loss by 2. You are now an elf. Kind of neat. So basically turns you into a temporary tree. Eye for an eye. You may play this card immediately after you lose fortitude from a card played by another player. You may not play this card if you reduce that fortitude loss. So that player loses 2 fortitude. You are now a Raven. Be wary, for the hunter may become the hunted. You may play this card immediately after you lose fortitude by another player. You may not reduce it. That player loses 1 fortitude. You have 2 copies of Fly Away. Ignore an action sometimes or anytime card that affects your fortitude or alcohol content. You are now a Raven. And finally, Wild Shape. It lets you change into another form. I kind of wish you had like 3 of these for as much as it wants you to change, just so you could get this more often. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting deck to play. Or idea of it, where she keeps changing into different things and have different abilities. So you kind of have to plan your moves ahead of time. So the rules kind of go over a bunch of different stuff. So if you, for example, are a Raven, and I'm not going to go through in depth on every single part of the rules, but they kind of just give up instances. So when you check the effects on here, you check at the time that card would trigger. So this says, if you would add extra gold to your stash, gain 1 extra gold from the inn. So if you're a Raven and you play a card that says, gain 1 extra gold, you know, just as an example, gain 1 gold from another player. What would happen is, if that just activated, nobody did anything else, great, you get an extra gold then from this. But if before that activates, somebody else plays a card that negates that, then nothing happens. Alternatively, if you play this, but then if you are a Raven and you play a card that's going to get you extra gold, or you like win a pot of gold, but before you finish off the pot, you turn Wild Shape, you turn into a bear before the round ends, and you actually get your gold, then this doesn't trigger. So the effect happens when it actually happens. If you have something that changes your shape, or might decrease or change what the effect of a card does before it actually activates, because whenever you have multiple cards that stack, the top card goes first, so someone might play something in response to your card, which might negate the effects. You don't get it until that happens. That's basically all the examples are about, just different stuff like that. So then the last thing I do want to point out is, if you bought box set number 5, you're going to get some extra things in that set that aren't in here but are kind of nice. So you'll get this player sheet. So any characters that were made before set number 5 didn't have these. They had these kind of cards, which are a little bit thicker, but they still have all the information, but these are kind of more character specific, because they'll have the picture on there, they'll have a list of your form cards up at top, plus if they have additional effects in there, they tell you, so it says turn order may become an elf. If you are a tree, you must become an elf. Then you can do your other stuff. So it's kind of really fun, little extra reminder rules. So these come in box set 5. If you had any characters that came before 5, they'll be updated in there. Anything that came out after set 5 will have these. So if you bought like a newer set, and you're like, ooh, I got these in there, and then you bought this set, and you're like, oh, how come I didn't get one of these? Because that's why. It's in box set number 5, Treasure Trove. The other thing you get in there to go with that set, because it's also a storage box, is you get a deck divider. So this way you can put your cards in there and divide them from everything else. You can find your characters quicker versus having them all just stored in these everyone in individual box. A is for the allies. This is Erin, the Everchanging. Then also on the back of the cards, if they have some sort of special setup or game effects like she does, it will remind you on how to do it. So it's also a nice little thing if you start collecting a lot of these characters and a lot of these sets to pick up that set number 5 for these, because it makes it newer players hopping in a little bit easier because they have I think it's just a reminder on how to play the card, plus they get these boards that tell you maybe where to put your special cards if you have any, or if they have special effects. So they're really fun extras. Not necessary to play the game, but kind of neat. Alright, that is what we have for Erin the Everchanging, our druid. Check out the rest of the videos. See you guys there. Bye.